Right, we're going to move on now to a double act. Both Shehla, Mohammed and Kath Sparks.
Thank you very much, Phil, and good morning. Some of you may know me. I'm Shehla Mohammed. I'm a clinical geneticist at Guy's and St Thomas's, and we may have sort of met in the clinic if you've attended there. I think many of you probably know Kath, who works across site, so she helps us at the St Thomas's clinic, but also at Great Ormond Street. So, Kath and I, as Phil said, we're going to do a little double act and just give you some feedback on how the clinics have changed over time. I hope you will agree, and the feedback that you give us sort of suggests that you do, that these are a very helpful and useful resource, but over time, you know, there's often a need for things to change about how we can try and help you in the clinic. You are coming to the clinic and seeing a number of sort of specialists, but we just really wanted to sort of update you on some recent developments. And in the afternoon, we're around to ask any questions, but we'll just run through those. So telemedicine clinics. This was an initiative that has started across all 4 services, and essentially what I'd just like to do is go through why we started these clinics, how do they work. Do they actually work? And although they've only been running since February, since January this year, you know, it's a bit too early to give you a lot of feedback, but we've had some really helpful initial feedback, which I'd like to, Kath and I would like to sort of share with you. So how did this come about? I think the main reason was that there was huge pressures on the service. We were seeing an increasing number of referrals, and this was probably a combination of greater awareness amongst many medical specialties about BBS, greater awareness about the availability of the service, so rather than individuals being seen by their local teams, perhaps by 1 or 2 specialties, people are aware that the service has been established and running now for nearly 10 years. We heard about sort of genomic technology and the ability for us to diagnose BBS that has really sort of transformed the number of tests that Beth has done over the last few years. But the main issue is that obviously as we are funded from NHS England, there is a finite pot of money. And so whilst we would love to see everybody, there are constraints on the service. So we were quite keen to sort of look at how we could try and address this issue. We heard from Phil earlier that increasingly we are diagnosing patients with BBS often from a very young age. So from the age of 3 months till sort of late 60s. We have been able to sort of confirm the diagnosis perhaps in about 1/3 of the patients before there are very obvious clinical symptoms that are apparent. And we've confirmed the diagnosis in some very, very young children as well. Again, because technology allows us to do so. So I'm just going to give you just a few sort of rough numbers about how the clinics have coped with the number of referrals that are coming through. So at Guy's, we run around 9 clinics, and increasingly the number of people that we've been seeing have been increasing, originally from about 7 or 8 per clinic to sometimes 12 or 14. So remember, this is an all-day clinic. Patients are coming, and they will see between 6 and 7 different specialties. So in order to accommodate what I said earlier about new referrals, earlier diagnosis, and early awareness, we needed to accommodate those children or adults who are coming through, but also we need to make sure that our follow-up of patients in the clinic also runs as planned. And what we were very aware of is that the length of the follow-up time just began to increase. So it increased from a year to 17 months, and in some cases 23 months. That is something that we felt very uncomfortable with. We did not feel that that is a very good service for patients. So we had to do something in order to make sure that we see all the newly diagnosed patients and families, as well as the ones that were already known to the service. Overall, this reflected about a 20% increase in the volume of patients that were coming through. So I don't know, Kath, if you want to sort of say a little bit about what was happening at Great Ormond Street as well.
So Great Ormond Street also has the same 20% increase. In the last year, from April to April, we saw 14 new referrals, which actually equates to 2 full clinics, which pushes everybody back by 2 months effectively in their clinic appointments. So the pressures are there, and we're trying to do what we can to work through that.
So, and also in terms of sort of forward planning, we're aware that there will be at least 10, actually now 12, perhaps sort of 12 patients who will be transitioning to the adult services. So they will be moving from Great Ormond Street to be seen at the Guy site. So there are all these developments that we just needed to be able to accommodate and somehow ensure that patients were not left out. As Phil sort of mentioned, I think in previous years, we were in a dedicated space at Guy's, and the plans were for us to move to an even more dedicated service at St Thomas's, and that has happened. That happened last year, and we moved to a newly a purpose-built rare disease centre, and really the idea of this is that this was a sort of bespoke space. We would like to feel that we are a centre of excellence, because you are seeing colleagues and a team that have a lot of knowledge and expertise in looking after patients with BBS. And there were some points here which were important in when we were arguing for funding and resources to build this, so there is an adequate caseload, that we ensure that there is not just one person who is part of the service, and that we were able to see children move into adult services, so transition of care. And some of you may have visited our Rare Disease Centre. If you haven't, you're very welcome to attend, and I'm just going to take you through very quickly this new space, which was essentially designed and built by patients. So it was in partnership with patients. We asked for their input, so it is designed to cater for individual patients with multiple specialist needs. And it is a unique service, because in this space we can see children as well as adults, as well as sort of transition care individuals. It is light and airy, it is quiet, and the feedback that we've had has been really encouraging. So we wanted to make use of this new development, because we felt that this was a unique opportunity for us to accommodate an increasing number of patients that we were already seeing and that we expected to see in coming years. So one proposal was, well, can we just not do extra clinics? Well, that was physically just not possible because of sort of space and staffing commitments elsewhere. So the proposal was that we sort of set up what are called sort of telemedicine clinics. And we often have telephone conversations with many of you before or after clinics if there are questions or concerns. But what we wanted was to make sure that this was a structured, funded arrangement that could sort of continue, and that it was something that was available across all 4 services. So we asked for additional funding for all centres from NHS England, who fund the rest of the service. Last year the funding was agreed, and we had some discussion about how we would ensure that the patients who are being seen in this kind of setting were appropriate. So remember, this is not a face-to-face setting as such in clinic, but we needed it to be as equivalent as possible. So I'm just showing here a picture which was a very good 70th birthday present news from NHS England, not mine, so fortunately, not just yet, but it was really welcome and very timely. So we wanted to make sure that the process for patients with BBS being seen in the telemedicine clinic was simple and straightforward. We needed to make sure that the IT links were sort of secure and they were safe. Obviously there are other aspects like consent, clinic guides, appointment letters, that all needed to be in place. So a lot of work was done behind the scenes, largely by Kath and other members of the team, to make sure that this was sort of set up. And I think the GOSH clinics at the moment are telephone clinics, Kath, is that right?
They are. Great Ormond Street are rolling out a new telemedicine platform, I believe. So at the moment, we're just doing a multidisciplinary telephone clinic with the peds at the moment, but hopefully they will be up to telemedicine at some point in the near future.
And what we also wanted to do was to use some of the established sort of systems we have. So we have sort of Certus, which is our patient management system, which you've heard about sort of last year and previous years. So we didn't really want to duplicate it. We wanted everything to dovetail and work in the same way, using the same systems and processes, but just giving us more capacity. So the clinic set up is set up just briefly is we give the initial information to the patients. We raise it at the time of the clinic when we are discussing follow-up appointments. The letters are sent. We collect the activity on Certus. And for the pediatric clinics, we contact the school nurse and GP to get height, weights and blood pressures. So the team members at the moment are slightly different between Guy's and Great Ormond Street. So I'm present along with Kat, whose help is invaluable. We have Angela, who's been able to come to most of our clinics, which is incredibly useful. And we have a dietitian, but at the Great Ormond Street only. I have to say, IT facilities in the NHS are not renowned for being good or reliable, but in this case, they are state-of-the-art and it works. So the way that the clinics run is that we have the same kind of questions that we would go through if you were visiting the clinic and we were seeing you face-to-face. There may be specific individuals or particular patients that can be raised. We then do a summary letter in the same way after your visit, and then we arrange sort of follow-up tests and appointments. Kat would like to say maybe a little bit about how it works, because we are using your computers or laptops. Do you want to just have a quick word?
So the adult service, we are using Skype for Business as a platform. And it depends whether you've got a laptop with a camera and a microphone or an iPad on what you need to do pre-clinic. If you have a laptop with a microphone, we just send you a link to your email. You click on the link and that will take you to a web page, and that should allow you to join to the meeting. With a laptop, with the iPad, or a iPhone, you will need to download the Skype for Business app and then not do anything with that and just follow the link from the email. There has been a few technical difficulties, but we've managed to troubleshoot quite a few. I've been on the phone whilst we're setting up the meeting to them, and then I've come off the phone so we then have the meeting. But on the whole, they have been very good. If there is no Wi-Fi in the house, again, we won't do a telemedicine clinic because we'll just waste all your money.
So we've had some initial feedback, and largely this is positive. So these are some quotes from individuals, and I'll just sort of summarize them for you. I think largely people felt that it went very well. They felt that they had time to ask questions. Obviously, the whole professional team is not present, but if there are questions, we can ask advice from other members of the team. Some colleagues did find that it was a bit hard to hear at the first appointment. There was a suggestion that having psychology input at these particular sort of clinic setups would also be helpful. But largely it was a thumbs up from most of the patients who were able to participate. There were some comments that some people found there was enough time, others felt that it was too quick. There were some really helpful suggestions about if you were taking part in this clinic to maybe, because it's a very structured time slot, about half an hour, that you write down any questions that you wanted to ask, and that will help sort of go through your any questions and concerns. Sarah and Professor Beals were singled out by one patient because they were hard to hear, but I think it was just sort of the technology side of things. So we're working on making sure that that is better. So thank you to BBS UK. I'd particularly like to sort of thank Angela and Kat for their help, and obviously all the clinical teams. So, you know, we are learning from the process, and hopefully we can fine-tune it as we go along. But it means that, you know, nobody has to wait, hopefully in the future, for much longer than they should. At the appointment, it also gives us an opportunity to sort of signpost people if they really do need to come to the clinic. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you for perfect timekeeping, and also to everyone this morning for your interaction. That's absolutely fantastic. We're having coffee now. So what we want you to do is to be back here at 11:20 to listen to Kerry. Okay, thank you.